The global landscape is shifting. Traditional power dynamics that have defined international relations for decades are now being challenged in unprecedented ways. Throughout history, we've witnessed the rise and fall of global powers. Each follows a predictable cycle, from emergence and prosperity to dominance and eventually decline. Today, we're witnessing what many experts believe is another pivotal moment in this cycle, with traditional power structures being re examined. The United States, once the undisputed global superpower, is facing increasing scrutiny. Recent polls show that Americans themselves are concerned about their nation's position. This shift is driven by both internal challenges, such as growing polarization, and external forces, as the global community reevaluates traditional alliances and partnerships. This video explores the perceived decline of U.S. influence and examines why Canada might be positioned to offer a more stable and effective model of leadership on the world stage. Join us as we examine these global shifts, analyze the factors contributing to changing power dynamics, and explore Canada's potential role in the future of global leadership. Multiple sources suggest a decline in U.S. global influence. This section presents an objective look at the data and contributing factors. According to Pew Research, 47% of Americans believe U.S. global influence is getting weaker, while only 19% see it strengthening. The United States' global relationships are changing. Recent years have shown diminished ability to mediate global conflicts, erosion of trust among traditional allies, and growing influence of competing powers. Strategic missteps have contributed to this perception of decline. The withdrawal from Afghanistan is frequently cited as a significant blow to U.S. credibility on the world stage. Power dynamics are shifting as nations like India recalibrate their relationships with major powers, including the United States, China, and Russia. The rise of China and Russia as global challengers further complicates the picture. China's growing military power and economic influence present a direct challenge to U.S. global leadership. To summarize, multiple factors contribute to the perceived decline of U.S. influence globally. These include diminished conflict mediation capabilities, erosion of trust among allies, strategic failures in foreign interventions, the rise of China and Russia, and changing perceptions among the international public. The United States faces significant internal challenges that undermine its stability and global influence. Political polarization has intensified dramatically in the United States. Comparing electoral maps from 1996 and 2016 shows how the country has become more politically segregated. This growing divide between Democrats and Republicans has paralyzed decision-making and created gridlock in Washington. Congressional approval ratings have hit historic lows as a result. Economic weaknesses present another serious challenge. The national debt has reached staggering levels, exceeding $16 trillion. At the same time, income inequality has grown dramatically compared to European countries, with wealth concentrated among fewer Americans. Social divisions run deep in American society. Historical tensions along racial, cultural, and geographic lines continue to fragment the nation. These divisions have become so profound that Americans increasingly live in separate realities, with different news sources, communities, and perspectives on basic facts. All of these internal challenges directly impact America's ability to exercise global leadership. The fundamental principle remains: a nation divided at home cannot lead effectively abroad. These domestic challenges weaken America's position in the evolving global order. The world is increasingly shifting from being dominated by a single superpower to a system with multiple centers of power and influence. Multipolarity describes a world with multiple centers of power, where global influence is distributed among several nations rather than concentrated in a single superpower. Evidence of this shift is clear in public perception. A Pew Research study found that nearly half of Americans believe U.S. influence in the world is weakening, while 2/3 believe China's influence is growing stronger. In this multipolar landscape, we're seeing the formation of various regional power blocks and strategic alliances. Nations are creating partnerships and coalitions that operate outside traditional Western dominated institutions. In this new multipolar reality, leadership takes different forms. Nations can exert specialized influence in specific domains like technology, finance, or humanitarian issues. Collaborative approaches and regional leadership opportunities are expanding. This multipolar shift creates significant opportunities for nations like Canada to step up and play a more prominent role in global affairs. As fewer countries automatically look to the U.S. for leadership, Canada can engage globally beyond the shadow of its southern neighbor. Canada can serve as a diplomatic bridge between competing power blocs, exercise leadership in specific domains like environmental policy or peacekeeping, and develop strategic partnerships beyond traditional alliances. A multipolar world presents both challenges and opportunities. Global decision-making becomes more complex, requiring greater diplomatic skill, but it also allows middle powers like Canada to have more meaningful input in shaping international norms and institutions. Canada consistently ranks as one of the best places to live, with unique strengths that position it as a potentially reliable and ethical global leader. Canada boasts a stable democratic system with strong institutions. Its parliamentary democracy has a long history of peaceful transfers of power, robust rule of law, and judicial independence. Canada enjoys a strong economy driven by trade. As a G7 member, it has a diversified economy, significant natural resource wealth, and one of the world's most stable banking systems. Canada embraces a multicultural society, with official bilingualism and cultural diversity as national policy. The country's approach to integrating immigrants while encouraging them to maintain their cultural heritage has created a vibrant and diverse society. Canada is known for its values-based foreign policy with a strong commitment to multilateralism, human rights advocacy, and a proud tradition of peacekeeping. The country also demonstrates leadership on environmental issues in international forums. Canada consistently ranks among the best countries in global indices. It achieves top-tier positions in quality of life measurements, social progress metrics, education outcomes, and environmental stewardship. These fundamental strengths, democratic stability, economic resilience, multiculturalism, values-based foreign policy, and consistently high global rankings, position Canada as a potentially reliable and ethical global leader in an increasingly multipolar world. Despite its positive global image, Canada faces significant challenges that hinder its potential as a global leader. Canada is widely viewed as having a positive influence globally, with 81% of people seeing Canada favorably in international affairs. Yet despite this positive perception, Canada's actual global influence has significantly decreased in recent years. One major weakness is Canada's inconsistent international policies. Over the years, Canada has shown shifting diplomatic priorities and fluctuating engagement with United Nations initiatives. Canada has also faced criticism for inconsistent climate action commitments, often setting ambitious goals without adequate follow-through. In terms of defense, Canada's military spending has been inconsistent and generally below NATO's target of 2% of GDP. This inadequate investment has several implications: limited global military influence, reduced peacekeeping capacity, and over-reliance on allies for security. On the world stage, Canada's global influence remains modest compared to major powers like the United States. To address these weaknesses, experts argue that Canada needs visionary leadership that can develop consistent foreign policy and commit appropriate resources to international engagement. Effective leaders could leverage Canada's positive global reputation and build international coalitions to increase the country's influence. American decline, defining the concept. The term American decline refers to the idea that the United States is losing power relative to other nations. This concept encompasses various dimensions of decreasing influence. External dimensions of American decline include shifts in several key areas of global power. In terms of military influence, the distribution of American troops worldwide has changed significantly over time, with presence diminishing in various regions. This reshaping of military presence reflects shifting priorities and resource constraints. Economically, the rise of China represents a significant challenge to American dominance. While the U.S. still leads in nominal GDP, China has already surpassed America in terms of purchasing power parity, indicating a shift in global economic influence. The financial dimension of American decline can be observed in the gradual reduction of the U.S. dollar's dominance as a global reserve currency. While still the world's primary reserve currency, its share has been steadily decreasing over recent years. Americans themselves increasingly perceive their nation's global influence to be waning. By 2013, over half of Americans believed the U.S. played a less important role as a world leader compared to a decade earlier, with only 17% believing its role had increased. Alongside external factors, American decline also encompasses internal dimensions. These include decreasing social cohesion, intensifying political polarization, aging infrastructure, challenges in educational competitiveness, and evolving cultural influence globally. It's important to note that American decline is relative, not absolute. The United States remains powerful, but its relative position is changing as other nations rise and the world shifts toward a more multipolar order. Canada's potential as a global power is anchored in its unique geographic position. Spanning 9.98 million square kilometers, it is the second largest country by landmass. Canada's strategic advantage begins with its access to three oceans: the Atlantic to the east, the Pacific to the west, and the Arctic to the north. This three-ocean access is rare globally and positions Canada uniquely for trade and security. Canada possesses an extraordinary wealth of natural resources that spans its vast territory. These resources include the world's third-largest proven oil reserves, second-largest uranium deposits, and is a leading producer of potash and other critical minerals. Canada's mineral wealth is truly extraordinary. The country is a global leader in the production of numerous mineral resources that are critical for modern technology and industry. Canada ranks first globally in potash production, first in uranium production, and is among the top 5 producers of nickel and diamonds. The country also exports significant quantities of gold, copper, zinc, and other precious metals. Uranium represents one of Canada's most strategically important resources. With the world's largest high-grade uranium deposits, Canada is positioned to be a critical supplier for global energy needs as more countries transition to nuclear power to reduce carbon emissions. Saskatchewan's Athabasca Basin contains the highest-grade uranium deposits in the world. Canada supplies approximately 20% of global uranium and is a key supplier to the United States, giving it significant leverage in energy security discussions. Canada's resource wealth has shaped its economic development throughout history. From the fur trade to resource extraction, the country has leveraged its abundant natural resources to build trade networks and establish itself as a reliable global supplier. Canada's geography provides several key security advantages. Its vast territory creates natural buffer zones, while difficult terrain in many regions forms natural defenses. The country's Arctic territory gives it a strong position for monitoring maritime traffic and asserting sovereignty in an increasingly important region. Canada's natural resources and strategic location provide a strong foundation for increased global influence. Its vast reserves of critical resources, three-ocean access, and strategic security advantages position it uniquely on the world stage. As demand for resources grows and trade routes evolve, Canada's geographic and resource advantages will only become more significant. Canadian identity is distinctly separate from American identity in several fundamental ways. Canadians have forged a unique national character rooted in multiculturalism, a strong social welfare tradition, commitment to peacekeeping, and an emphasis on building consensus rather than confrontation. Surveys consistently show that Canadians strongly desire to maintain their independence and unique identity separate from their southern neighbor. According to polling data, nearly 90% of Canadians express a desire to remain culturally and politically distinct from the United States, with three-quarters specifically valuing Canada's unique political system. This distinct Canadian identity fuels the argument that Canada could offer a different, more balanced approach to global leadership. Ultimately, Canada's strong sense of national identity and desire to remain distinct from the United States could provide the foundation for a uniquely Canadian approach to global leadership and influence. Growing Canadian patriotism has been observed by sociologists and political analysts in recent years. This rising sense of national pride is evident in many public events, with Canadians proudly displaying their flag and celebrating their unique identity. Canadian patriotism is deeply connected to distinctive values like diversity, inclusivity, and social justice. These values shape how Canadians see their role in the world. Canada's growing sense of national pride is reflected in its diplomatic presence. The country is increasingly recognized for its balanced approach to international relations. This growing patriotism could provide the momentum for Canada to take on a more assertive role on the global stage. There is an increasing desire among Canadians to see their country emerge as a respected global leader. However, to fully harness this patriotic energy, Canada will need visionary leadership and bold policy initiatives that can transform national pride into global influence. The United States' withdrawal from Afghanistan represents a significant case study in diminishing American influence. To understand this event, we need to examine the 20-year U.S. involvement in Afghanistan, from the 2001 invasion to the 2021 withdrawal. After 20 years of military presence in Afghanistan, the United States had invested over $2 trillion and suffered more than 2,500 military casualties. In April 2021, President Biden announced a full withdrawal of U.S. forces, initially setting a symbolic deadline of September 11th, later moved to August 31st. The withdrawal quickly became chaotic when the Taliban captured Kabul on August 15th, much sooner than U.S. intelligence had predicted. Panic ensued at the airport as thousands attempted to flee. Dramatic images of the evacuation spread worldwide, including desperate Afghans clinging to departing planes and massive crowds inside military transport aircraft. The consequences for American global influence were substantial. The chaotic nature of the withdrawal damaged U.S. credibility with allies and raised questions about American commitment to its partners around the world. International security experts widely agree that the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan raised serious questions about American reliability and competence in international affairs. China's Belt and Road Initiative represents one of the most ambitious infrastructure projects in modern history. Launched in 2013 by President Xi Jinping, the Belt and Road Initiative is a massive infrastructure development and investment program spanning Asia, Europe, and Africa. The initiative now involves more than 140 countries, with China committing over $1 trillion in investments, making it one of the largest infrastructure and investment projects in history. The Belt and Road Initiative consists of two main components. First, the Silk Road Economic Belt, which includes overland corridors connecting China to Europe through railways and energy pipelines. Second, the Maritime Silk Road, which develops sea routes connecting China to Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Europe through strategic port investments and improved shipping lanes. These massive infrastructure projects include railways, highways, ports, airports, power plants, and telecommunications networks across continents. China has strategically invested in key regions and industries around the world. These investments target energy resources, transportation infrastructure, and digital technologies across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. While the United States maintains a larger overall GDP, China's economic growth has been much faster, particularly in manufacturing and real sector output. This changing economic balance is reshaping global power dynamics. The Belt and Road Initiative directly challenges U.S. economic dominance in several ways. It creates alternative trade and financial systems outside of U.S. influence and establishes China centered economic networks across multiple continents. These investments reduce participating countries' dependence on U.S. led institutions like the World Bank and IMF, while expanding China's geopolitical influence and securing access to critical resources and markets. China brings several advantages to the Belt and Road Initiative, including state backed financing, construction expertise, massive manufacturing capacity, and a strategic long term vision that many Western countries struggle to match. However, critics have raised concerns about what some call debt trap diplomacy, where countries become financially dependent on China. Other issues include environmental impacts, labor standards, and the potential military or strategic uses of BRI infrastructure. The Belt and Road Initiative is fundamentally reshaping global economic systems by creating a more multipolar economic world and offering an alternative development model to the Western led approach. This has forced Western powers, including the United States, to respond with their own infrastructure initiatives while accelerating the shift of the global economic center from the West to the East. Canada possesses vast uranium resources that are becoming increasingly strategic in today's competitive global landscape. With world-class mining operations across the country, Canada has positioned itself as a leading producer of uranium. Canada ranks as the second largest uranium producer in the world. The province of Saskatchewan hosts the world's highest grade uranium deposits, accounting for 13% of global production. Uranium mines and facilities are strategically located across the country, with major operations concentrated in the Athabasca Basin of northern Saskatchewan. Beyond raw uranium production, Canada has developed its own nuclear technology. The CANDU reactor is uniquely designed to use natural, unenriched uranium fuel. This innovative reactor design allows for refueling without shutting down and has been exported to countries around the world, further extending Canada's nuclear influence. In a world increasingly focused on mineral resources and energy security, Canada's uranium deposits represent significant strategic leverage. As nations pursue clean energy solutions to meet climate goals, nuclear power is experiencing renewed interest. This positions Canada's uranium resources as increasingly valuable geopolitical assets. Canada exports 88% of its uranium production, establishing itself as a reliable supplier to international markets. The United States, as the world's largest nuclear power producer, relies on imported uranium. 20% of U.S. electricity comes from nuclear power, creating an important strategic relationship. Canadian uranium exports to the U.S. have seen significant growth in recent years, particularly in 2022, reinforcing Canada's position as a critical supplier. Looking to the future, Canada is investing in small modular reactor technology, positioning itself at the forefront of nuclear innovation. Growing demand from Asian markets, coupled with concerns about supply security during great power competition, further enhances Canada's strategic position as a reliable uranium supplier. As nations seek stable, secure sources of energy in an increasingly competitive geopolitical landscape, Canada's uranium resources represent a critical strategic asset that enhances its global influence. Expert analysis of America's changing global position goes beyond traditional metrics of economic and military power. Many foreign policy experts, like Dr. James Wilson, argue that a nation's true strength comes from its moral compass and social cohesion, not just its economic indicators or military capabilities. This map illustrates the significant decline in U.S. leadership approval around the world between 2016 and 2017, with red regions showing a decrease in approval and green showing an increase. Experts identify several key factors beyond economics that contribute to America's changing global position. These include the erosion of democratic norms, declining social cohesion, increasing partisan polarization, and diminishing soft power influence. To understand America's current position, we must examine its historical foundations. The early republic established democratic institutions, economic frameworks, and constitutional values that formed the bedrock of American influence. Traditional metrics of national power focus on economic and military indicators. However, a more comprehensive view must include measures of social cohesion, trust in institutions, and democratic resilience. In conclusion, many experts believe that America's changing global position reflects challenges beyond economic metrics. A nation's true power ultimately rests on its moral authority and the strength of its democratic institutions. Canada's geographic advantages provide a strong foundation for global trade leadership. As the second largest country by landmass, Canada's vast territory spans 9.98 million square kilometers. Canada's geographic advantages are significant. It possesses the world's longest coastline at 243,000 kilometers, with access to three oceans, the Atlantic, Pacific, and Arctic. This extensive coastline provides Canada with numerous natural harbors and ports on both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Canada's strategic position is enhanced by an extensive network of ports and rail systems that connect its resource-rich interior to international markets. This geographic positioning gives Canada significant advantages in global shipping routes. Canada's coastlines provide strategic access to major global markets. The Atlantic coast connects to European and African markets, the Pacific coast to Asian markets, and the Arctic offers emerging northern shipping routes. These geographic features translate into significant logistical advantages, including shorter shipping routes to major markets, extensive rail and port infrastructure, and maritime provinces that provide direct access to global shipping lanes. Canada's unique geographic position, with its vast territory and access to multiple oceans, creates a natural foundation for leadership in global trade.